And then in May, he broke his hip and he was in the hospital, and his speech had gotten so garbled that he really couldn't communicate anything. And after 2 days, I just decided, what the heck, I'm going to put a patch on him. And I put a patch on the back of his neck. And I can't explain this. This doesn't make any logical sense. But I had only been able to understand about 10% of what he was saying. And then I put the patch on, and I could understand 50% of what he was saying immediately. First was introduced to X39, I heard very early on about the clinical studies that had been done on cognition and memory. And I also saw a wonderful YouTube that, if you haven't seen, take a look. Put in Joan X39 memory YouTube, and it's a 1-month following of her from not having a patch to 30 days on the patch, and it's really inspiring. And I saw that these patches could really help with cognition. And my husband has advanced dementia. And I wrestled with whether to share the patches with him, because he can't do anything for himself, but his cognition is still there enough to cause some suffering. And I didn't want to help him increase his cognition to increase his suffering. So I had decided I wasn't going to share the patch with him. The next morning I came into the hospital, and the nurse who was there overnight was the same nurse who had been there the first night he came in. And she came running over to me so excitedly saying, "We had a conversation. Like, I didn't know he could have a conversation." She said, "Is it true that you met him through his ex-wife?" And I said, "Yes." So I left the patches on him while he was in the hospital. And then when I moved him back to memory care, for a little bit I didn't. And then I decided, you know what? When he used to be able to walk a lot, he used to be able to talk and connect with people. He's losing both of those things. He's lost the walking, really. And so I'm just going to put the patch on and at least let him be able to still have connection and communication with people as long as he can. And then 2 weeks ago, I went to visit him with my son and my grandson. They hadn't seen him for 1.5 years because of what's been going on this last year. And we got there, and uncharacteristically, my husband was not home. There was no light in his eyes. He didn't recognize any of us. This has not been my experience. And I was so discouraged that my son and grandson were going to have this experience. I know it's coming. I know it'll come one day, but I didn't want it to be now, because he'd been very engaged with me every time I came to visit, which is frequently. And then a staff member came out and said, "I've been meaning to call you. We ran out of patches." And I was like, wow. No, I didn't know if they really were doing anything or not, but then I knew. And I was like, okay, what do I do? I don't have them in the car because it was like a 95-degree day. I didn't want to keep them in the car. And then suddenly I heard this still small voice say, "You've got one on the back of your neck. Take it off and put it on him." So I took the patch off the back of my neck and I put it on him. And he was all bent over, and could only look at the floor, and I put my head under and I'm looking up. The light came back into his eyes. He was there. Within about 10 minutes, he was sitting practically upright instead of all curled over, and we had a wonderful 2-hour connection. He made jokes. It was really wonderful and amazing, and I wanted to share that all with you.